are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Rays podcast, and Ulises, today, another very special guest, and that is Tampa Bay Rays minor league prospect, Logan Driscoll. Logan, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Well, first of all, it's January, so obviously not a lot of baseball playing activities, but what have you been up to this offseason, Logan, and how are you getting ready for the next season?
So actually, at the end of this past season, I was down at Instructs and ended up tearing my left adductor and lower abdomen. So I ended up getting an MRI on that, and then it ended up being, since I was playing on it, I tore the opposite side too. So I ended up getting bilateral sports hernia surgery to start the off season. So I've been up in Rhode Island, where I live, and I've been rehabbing up in pretty much right outside of Boston with Mike Reinold, who's a big household name in baseball. He used to be the old head trainer with the Red Sox. So I'm rehabbing with a respected name. So things are going good in that department, and I'm pretty much back to doing baseball activities and getting stronger and everything. So things are heading in the right direction.
Okay, good. I was wanting to ask, how is the rehab process? When did the rehab begin, and where you are right now in that process?
Right. So actually, right off the bat, so I ended up being both sides. So I got surgery on November 2nd, and then that was the day before my birthday. So happy birthday, me, right?
Oh, that's the worst birthday you had.
Yeah, I know. But a week goes by. I'm supposed to be walking like a mile every day. They want you moving so scar tissue doesn't lay down. And by the end of the week, I couldn't even stand up. I was in so much pain. So I actually called the doctor. He had me drive down that Monday, saw him again, said I had a hematoma, which is like muscle bleeding. So I went in for a second surgery and got a tube put in that I walked around with for a week that was just draining the blood and swelling out. So I had that for a week, and then get that taken out, and it turns out I get an infection. So I was battling that for another 10, 15 days. Yeah, so it was a tough first start of the off season, but things obviously turned around. I'm here with you guys now and in good spirits, so we're all good. Yeah.
Man.
Should be ready to go for spring training and all that. So
okay, good. So ready for spring training. Kevin, I wake up with my shoulder hurting a little bit, and I'm like, oh, man, today's gonna suck. And then Logan here is just doing Superman's work.
Yeah, it brings you back to reality a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
So Logan, where are you at in the process? Are you swinging a bat? Are you running full speed, or is that going to take a little bit more time in the lead up to spring training?
Yeah, so I've been catching, hitting. Obviously, the power's not there yet with a core injury. It's going to take a little bit of time to come back. But catching, I actually caught our old buddy Rich Hill the other day. So that was a treat. Yeah, it was good. Then there's some other big league names that I'm catching. So it's been good. Should be ready to go with all that. I think it's just being patient and not trying to jump the gun. Obviously, when I'm hitting and the ball doesn't have that bounce that I want, it can get in my head a little bit, but I just got to be patient and trust the process and all that. And obviously the season's coming up on us quick, but I still got a month and a half before I really got to be ready. So
yeah, you mentioned catching for Rich Hill a little bit. Has he given you any words of wisdom about, he's been in the big leagues for a long time, played for a lot of different teams. Any words of advice he's given you as to, progress and grow and develop as a player? I know he's a pitcher, you're a position player, but I'm sure there's some baseball lessons that he can impart to you.
Right. I mean, honestly, him and Mike Reinold are buddies. They go way back. And the biggest thing that I've noticed with Rich is he's still chasing that 1% to get better. He's still looking for that one thing that's going to put him over the edge, make him an all-star, like whatever it takes. And I think that's pretty cool to see when he's been 10 years in the big leagues, got his pension, all that, but he's still hungry to get better, which is pretty neat. I think he's like 40-something years old, and he's still working as hard as me or someone else in the minor leagues. So I think that's pretty cool. And I think another thing he said with Mike Reinold is, hey, like, you have the talent to make it. Now it's just kind of figuring out what's going to work for Logan and staying within myself. And he was like, you can probably hit. You're probably a decent hitter, but it's more so, hey, you're getting fatigued or whatever that's causing you to fall into these slumps and stuff like that. And sometimes doing less is more when it comes to those things. So that was like my biggest takeaway so far this offseason. Obviously, I still have a little bit of time left, but it's definitely been good getting to catch Rich Hill and see all of his different arm angles he's got now and see his stuff. It's pretty good. It's pretty cool.
You talk about having a decent hitter. That I like that. That's humility. Kevin, look at his numbers in 2021.
I've seen him.
For everybody out there that doesn't know them by heart, here are Logan's numbers: 295 average, a 374 on base, an 852 OPS. Doing this by playing catcher mostly. Is that correct?
Right. Yep.
What went right in 2021 to put those stud-like numbers?
Honestly, I mean, if we flash back to 2019, I think I hit like 260 something in short season. And then I struggled out of the gate, ended up pulling a quad, and it allowed me to slow the game down, came back, figured out what I needed to do to adjust to minor league play. Came back, put together a decent rookie campaign, you could say, in short season. Went to Instructs. Things went well there, and then I actually got to go to the fall league, which was awesome. Great experience. And then we go into this offseason where I actually had a shoulder surgery in 2020. So I'm rehabbing that whole COVID series, trying to get ready for the spring training. And I'm getting to spring training. I'm like, I'm probably not even going to break camp because my shoulder's so far behind. But I ended up breaking camp. And I think the biggest thing that helped me was obviously we had all that time to work, but just not having a high expectation. I hadn't seen a moving ball face to pitcher in a year and a half. So it really just allowed me to go out there and just have fun and enjoy myself. And I think that was a big lesson for me to realize, hey, like I can just have fun and play and things are going to take care of themselves. And when I'm not stressing, then I'm going to play the best of my ability, So.
Right. And Logan, I also know that in addition to catcher, previously you played some outfield and corner infield. Is that still the plan going forward, or have the Rays all but said, let's just keep developing you and working you behind the backstop?
Yeah, so I mean, I talked to our coordinators and they want me behind the plate, but they also like that I can play the outfield. I actually played center back in college, so it's always been like part of my repertoire. And that's what the Padres actually liked about me. And I think they wanted me to go more outfield route. But then once I got traded over, I ended up doing more catching with the Rays, which I'm sure you guys will come back with some more questions about that and how I like it. But yeah, I enjoy playing outfield and catching at the same time.
Oh, he knows what we're asking. I love it.
Yeah, how about that? Crazy. He knows that. Logan, you mentioned it off the top there. The trade from the Padres to the Rays in 2020, correct? Is it 2020?
Right. Yeah, 2020, right in like February. Yeah.
Pre-COVID. Oh my gosh. At least in America. That's
seems 10 like years ago.
At least. That feels like it was at least 10 years ago.
I know.
Crazy.
I'm 50 after COVID. Yeah.
Feels that way. Feels that way sometimes. Having said that, Logan, what do you, if anything, what do you remember about that day when you heard the news that, you got the notification or the alert that, I'm really being traded to the Rays? What was your emotions? What was that day like for you?
Right. To start off with, you guys know the name Tyler Zombro. Obviously, he's a pitcher with us in AAA. We actually played at school together. We're really close friends. And so we always joked about, maybe you'll get traded to the Rays, maybe you'll get traded to the Rays, whatever, just messing around. And then I was actually down at a camp in Peoria, Arizona, and I was hanging out with Ryan Weathers with the Padres, and we were just messing around, whatever. And then I got the call from Sam Gainey, the old coordinator, and AJ Preller saying I got traded. And kind of like you get the adrenaline. Like I feel like I was just completely numb. I felt like getting drafted again, getting that call, but it was kind of like a weird call this time. I was like, mixed emotions. But hanging up, first person I call is actually Tyler Zombro, and he's in disbelief, super excited. And then obviously I called my family and all that, and mom's like, "What's going on? Oh my gosh, is this a bad thing?" I'm like, "No, not really. Like, just an opportunity, all that." But definitely a weird experience. I think it was harder for me to understand because I came off of what I thought was a good year. And then on cloud nine, ready to go for spring training, and then here we go. I'm being traded to the Rays. So I think it's good to be exposed to that, like the business side of baseball early, because now it's like if I get traded again, I know I'll be okay. I realize that like more so now, it's like knowledge is power. So if I'm bouncing around from organizations, I'm learning more, and it's just adding to my knowledge for the game.
And Ulises, you can look at it like this way, where the Rays wanted Logan Driscoll. They wanted him on the roster within the organization in some shape or form.
You read my mind. What was the first thought though, Logan? Was it, damn, the Padres don't like me like that, or is it the Rays want me? Where does your brain go?
Honestly, the way they handled it, the Padres, calling me like for AJ to be like, hey, we wanted to keep you, but we needed this deal to go through. I mean, just having that mutual respect and not just treating me like a pawn was pretty nice. So I feel like it was more so the Rays wanted me rather than the Padres were seeing me just as a pawn, which was nice mutual respect.
And going after that, this might be a little bit in the weeds here, but okay, you get the call. What happens next? Like now you're like, okay, I have a lease, or I have to pack, or damn, I had tickets for that show in a week and now I can't make it. Like, what day-to-day life things do you as a baseball player that gets traded now? What was that like?
Well, that's funny because that night I was actually talking to my girlfriend. I was getting ready to get a hot air balloon ride in Arizona. So thank goodness I didn't do that. That was like super expensive. So I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. Thank goodness. Thank God I did not buy those tickets. But honestly,
Logan, you might have to watch out. That might be in the contract. You're not allowed to do a hot air balloon. Like,
there you go.
You know, there's something guys aren't allowed to play basketball sometimes. Right. So you might have to, double check the wording on your contract there. But anyway, continue.
Definitely right. But yeah, it was just honestly a weird time. I'm walking, like I was at the apartments across the street, so I walk over the next day and I'm grabbing my stuff. And it's just kind of weird. Like people are like, oh, they don't know how to say hi to me and stuff like that. It was definitely weird. I'm waiting for the Rays to call me to get me my flights home. I'm like, I'm asking the Padres, hey, can I get my money back for like my bags when I flew out there? And things are going weird, but I mean, once things got ironed out, it was all good. The Rays let me fly home, see my family first, and then they brought me down to Florida.
And home is Rhode Island, you said, correct?
I'm up here now. I'm actually from Virginia.
Virginia.
Right outside of DC.
What team did you grow up rooting for?
So I grew up rooting for the Yankees, unfortunately.
Man, we got a lot of ex-Yankee fans in the Rays farm system.
Yeah. It was Yankees until the Nats came, and then I was a big Nats fan, actually. So
okay.
Yeah.
Jack Lebowski, we just had him on the show, and he was a Yankee fan too. He was a Jeter guy. Were you also a Jeter guy?
Jeter guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't too bad.
Makes sense.
Okay, so that was that your idolized player growing up, or were there a couple other players that you, because I mean, coming up as a catcher, I know you've played sort of all over the diamond a little bit, but was that the guy that you wanted to be like?
It was definitely Jeter. Yeah. I actually grew up like playing shortstop. I'm sure like 99% of guys, so I wanted to be Jeter. And then my brother, who's older than me, he was a big Roger Clemens fan. So that's why like 22 is my number, just because of Roger Clemens. It's been kind of like one of my brother's numbers. So
very cool.
That's where that came from. So.
Now I am curious about this, Ulises and Logan. So a lot of baseball players, a lot of athletes, they set up shop their off-season homes or where they train, whatever it may be, in Florida, California, Texas, Arizona, maybe. Why Rhode Island? What brought you to Rhode Island of all places?
Bet you're thinking,
nothing against it. I just don't hear many baseball players off-seasoning in Rhode Island.
Yeah. Not the baseball hotspot, huh?
No.
Actually, my girlfriend's in med school at Brown, so she's going into her 4th year here soon. So that's why I made the move up here. Yep. And so, we're up here, and I'm actually training with one of my old Padre buddies, Mason Pioli, a few other guys, Chris Wright, who was, I think, runner-up to Colby White for minor league reliever of the year. So some talented guys up here, and then obviously I'm going up to the Boston area now twice a week. It was every day while I was still rehabbing pretty heavy. So I'm getting a good mixture of guys, and bouncing between a few facilities. Yeah.
Absolutely. And going back a little bit in getting traded from the Padres to the Rays, what was that initial meeting like with the Rays front office or the coaching staff? What did they sit you in a room? What did they tell you? What did they go over with you?
Honestly, nothing too crazy. I mean, they just kind of tried to make me feel at home. I mean, they didn't really dive into too much, just saying that they were happy I was here. They were just going to let me come in, show what I can do. And unfortunately, I came over with like a shoulder kind of issue. I think it was from playing a college season to short season, instructs to fall league. So by the end of that, I was completely worn down. So that was actually why I was in Arizona at the time when I got traded, because they were just trying to figure that out. So then I came over to the Rays. I guess practice a few days, but then they just wanted to figure out my shoulder. And then this sounds horrible, but lucky for me, kind of COVID happened because I didn't miss a season. So I was able to get surgery and then not miss a year. But obviously that year still hurts. Just like with playing experience and all that,
The development. Yeah.
Right.
Is that sort of one of the bigger shocks to the system of going from high school to college ball then to the minor leagues, is the amount of games and how it's, wow, this season's still going on. There's every day, there's not a break, there's not a breather really. Is that part of the just getting the body adjusted to that day in, day out, you're pretty much going to have a game. You're pretty much going to be expected to play.
Right. Definitely. Especially with the old schedule in 2019 where you're playing 3 games in one spot, traveling, and then playing that same day that you're traveling. I know we had, because I was in the Northwest League, I know we played in Idaho, drove all the way to Vancouver, which was like 18 hours, and played that next day. Yeah. So I think that's the hardest part, is adjusting to the travel. And sure, you're playing every day, but it's more so you're not getting the sleep you need and all that. And I think that was the best part of this past season, is we played 6-game series and we're in one spot. Guys can get in a routine. And I'm sure after COVID, if we would have had the normal kind of like schedule where you bounce around every 3 days, I'm sure the injuries would have been way up, just with guys not being able to keep up with the game.
I want to kind of dive in on that because I don't think a lot of baseball fans get to hear that minor league experience, from those guys, from guys like you,
Right.
Logan. So you said an 18-hour drive.
Yeah.
What happens in that bus for those 18 hours? What's the social etiquette of seeing a guy with a sleep mask? Prank, no prank. He needs sleep. Let's not do that. What's going on in those 18 hours?
Well, when we were in the Northwest League, we actually, I think that one trip, we had one bus. So we had like 40 guys on one bus. I was actually one of the guys that claimed the ground. I mean, each person has their preference, but I was a ground guy, so I could sprawl out a little bit better instead of trying to be hunched on a seat. But I guess once you have 2 buses, it kind of goes loud people on one bus and then like the sleeper, more serious people on the other bus. And I would say usually I'm on the energy bus, so we're having a good time playing cards and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna guess that he was going to be one of the player ones. I didn't want to put him on the spot, but I'm glad he told on himself.
What, the card playing?
Yeah.
You want to know who the ringleader is of that?
Yeah, of course.
Please.
Curtis Mead, Brett Wisely, and Alika Williams. All of them are big card guys. So I think even once we were all in Bowling Green together, I think after every game we come back, play cards for a little bit, and then hit the hay. Yeah.
I'm thinking Texas Hold'em.
We have a few games. We have a game called like 13. So it's like team games kind of, which is good. So it gets really competitive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
What is 13? I got to know what this game is.
So pretty much I think it's called 13. Alika taught it to us. But pretty much it's the people sitting across from each other on the same team. And you have the next guy has to beat the cards that you put down. So like I could put down 2 7s. You would have to put down anything of 2 that is greater than a 7.
Right.
And then it keeps going around. And then like the actual 2s are like the highest cards. So you can do triples, 4 of a kind as a bomb. So you just wipe out everything. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It gets intense.
I've played this when I did my study abroad. It was just called blank.
Oh, a curse word?
Yes.
Okay, I gotcha.
So, that's what we
Okay.
called it.
Gotcha,
But
gotcha.
13 is a
13
much
might be
better.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
Now, Logan, shifting back to what
Can I just say this? There's a lot of talent at that card table.
there's
yeah.
a lot of smooth hands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Curtis Mead,
definitely,
Elite Williams,
Yeah, I like
Logan
that.
yourself. It's a lot of talent there.
It's very nice. We had Curtis Mead on the show. It
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's awesome.
He's great. Going back to what happens on the dirt when you have those cleats. Obviously, as a catcher, this is a priority number one to ask. What is the relationship between you and the umpires? What is that line that it's that unwritten line of like you can say up to here?
Right.
What is that relationship like? And
Yeah.
what's the closest you've gotten to be get out of my field, but not quite?
Okay. I've been on the get out of my field a time or two, which isn't the best, but
Right.
I think everyone has. I mean, honestly, it's huge to have good relationships with umpires. And I think it honestly goes back to like even having relationships in college. Those guys ended up being some of my short season umpires. And then even this year, I had one guy that I had at Mason in high A this year. So these guys are trying to move up with you. They're obviously doing the best they can. So when you can have good relationships with them, they're going to be moving up with you. And I mean, it's just kind of like a compounding effect that if you just develop these relationships over the years, they'll take care of you. You'll take care of them. I think that's a key part, especially when you need those calls or things aren't going your way. You might catch a break, and that might be the thing that turns it around for you.
That's nice. Now, what's something I know that they don't like to be shown up. So when you do have a guy that's squeezing you and you're like,
Mhm.
dude, come on, it's been 4 or 5 innings of constant wrong calling. What can you say that won't get you thrown off? What is completely PG acceptable that they'll take the criticism? What's something you can say to say, hey, come on, man?
I mean, usually I ask first, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, am I moving the ball too much? Do I need to present it to you a little bit better? Things of that nature. And then hopefully the other team's catcher is having the same frustrations as me, because then if he's not, then that becomes kind of a problem. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of toe the line and try to be respectful, obviously. I mean, that kind of goes across any communication. Just try to be respectful.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
If I was back there, I'd say, yeah, we got a regular Joe West over here. Angel Hernandez
Yeah.
2.0. What's going on?
Oh no! Yeah,
False
that'll
breaks
get you
here.
run quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, a comparison. I know that would get you run off the
But
field.
hey, Joe West has been in the game for such a long time. I'm
tenured
respecting you in a way.
guy. Tenured guy.
Logan, what do you consider to be the most important aspect of a catcher defensively? I'm sure, I guess they're all important, but what's really the one thing, if there is, that really stands out to you? Like, I got to make sure I do this game in and game out.
That's a tough question, honestly, because obviously everyone's looking at receiving numbers are the thing right now.
Mhm.
Obviously, caught stealing matters and all these other things matter, but I think honestly, just having a relationship with your pitchers, obviously that's not a stat or anything like that. Everyone talks about that's what Yachty brings the most to the table. But it's true. Like, I think that's the most important thing. It's also your knowledge and your pregame to honestly build that understand your pitchers, and that goes along with the relationship and communicating with them to have a game plan, understand how their pitches move, what are their best pitches, because that sets you up to have success too. Understanding what your pitcher strengths are and all that, it just allows you to kind of change your setup and kind of have a plan for success with each individual guy. I think that's huge. Because you can be off on those other things. But if you have a plan, that kind of bails you out. If I'm having a tough day receiving or a tough day throwing, I can kind of change my positioning behind the plate to kind of help out with that.
Is that relationship with your pitchers the most important thing that maybe fans don't understand about the catcher's tasks, or is there something else?
I just don't think people understand how mentally draining catching is. Yeah, everyone talks about the physical side. Oh, your knees are banged up, but it's almost a 24-hour job. And then you add hitting into that, and
How so? How is it
you're
a 24-hour job?
So pretty much, I mean, the way I do it, and obviously we get our own scout reports, but pretty much I don't do anything after a game. I play the game, play some cards with the boys, and then go to bed and try to get a good night's sleep. But then when I wake up in the morning, I'm usually trying to run scout reports on guys from the previous night, their hitters, and then I have to do the pitchers. So that's also a mix-up. And so then you get to the field, you're probably catching pens before a game as well, and then get into the game. You're super locked in. You're pretty much more locked into catching than anything else. Because if you have a bad game, you're honestly probably setting up your pitchers for failure. If you're setting up your pitchers for failure, then the team might be losing that night. So it's almost, I would say you probably have 5 hours off of catching a day. But that's why I like playing outfield, because I walk over to the lineup card. I'm like, sweet. Like, I can focus on hitting for a day, you know? So that helps too.
We had Jack Lebowski, like we said earlier, and he was talking to us about pitchers meetings, as well as Colin Poche. He also talked about those pitchers meetings. Now, I have the perspective. We all have the perspective of pitching, thanks to those two guys on the show. Can you give us the catcher's perspective on those meetings? What happens? What's given out? Are there brochures? What's going on?
Usually, I mean, it honestly depends on where you're at. I think in low A, it was more on me to kind of do my own scouting reports and understand the hitters. Then you get to high A, and then you're actually having a meeting with the pitcher, the pitching coaches, the manager. Everyone's in the room, and you're just going down the lineup. Maybe not everyone, but maybe like their base runners, the guys that are going to be stealing, and then like their dangerous hitters, their hot hitters right now. But it ultimately comes down to, obviously you have a game plan for those hitters, but ultimately comes down to the pitcher's strength. So it's more so looking at that. Where do your strengths fit in against these hitters? Yeah.
That's really interesting. So you do your own scouting. How do you do your own scouting? I mean, Fangraphs, Baseball Savant. Like, how do you go about that? Do you have your own platform?
Baseball Savant is awesome.
Okay. Yes, it
but
is.
We don't have that really going on. We have like At Bats, which is like another program. So you just go back through, watch old games and stuff like that. And I actually had a notebook that I would just take with me into the dugout. And that was more for my hitting.
Right.
Because, I mean, when you're playing the guys 6 games in a row, you kind of have a mental game plan of how you're pitching them. So, like, that was more so for when I'm facing guys maybe once or twice a week. So then, especially when you play that first night and you're getting that starter again on the 6th day, that helps out a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much, as far as like scouting opposing pitchers when you're getting ready to go to the plate, how much does it become a thing of, okay, this is too much information, paralysis by overanalysis? Because once you get into the batter's box, I feel like, I can only speak as a golfer and an average one, if that is when I get to thinking and I'm just thinking about, okay, where are my hands? How are my feet? Like I've got too many things going on. I just need to go in and swing and just kind of keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid in a way. So where's kind of that balance of knowing like, okay, I know what this guy brings to the table, but also I don't want to get bogged down by all the I guess minutia. Information. Yeah.
Right. It definitely becomes a thing. I don't think you should really look at the patterns of pitches. Maybe you do. Maybe you look at the put away pitch or what got me out the past 3 times with this guy. If there's a sequence in there that you see is repeating itself, then maybe I start looking for a certain pitch. But it's more so taking notes on my actual swings and what was I thinking during that swing. Like if it's a guy with carry and I was thinking, try to like lift the ball, it's not going to work because I'm just going to be swinging underneath it. So it's more stuff like that. It's more fastball profiling because honestly in the dugout we have TrackMan data, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. It tells you like carry, run, all that stuff. So you have that knowledge, but it just says, 20 inches of carry. But what does that carry really look like? Is it really jumping? There's a lot that goes into it. So it's more so I'm keeping track of that rather than the sequencing because honestly, you have a different catcher back there every night. He probably doesn't think like me. I wish he did. But like when you have this experienced catcher, sometimes you can kind of pick up on some like patterns and stuff like that. Yeah.
What do you consider to be the toughest type of pitch to hit? We know that the high fastball is all the rage, and then maybe it's a breaking ball, maybe it's a sinker down and in. For you, what is the pitch that, not to give away your scouting report,
Right.
for people that might,
We'll keep it easy. We'll keep
yeah,
it
but
easy.
what gives you,
He hits them all,
Yeah,
Kevin.
that's
He hits
true.
them all. He's a stud.
No.
we know that, but just generally, I mean, talking to other players and so forth, just what's like, man, that's a tough pitch. I guess it depends on the pitcher too, but
It depends on the pitcher. And honestly, I think it was an adjustment period this year because, like I said, you have the iPads, the TrackMan on there.
Mhm.
But in 19, you didn't have that. And I don't think a lot of guys were exposed to that type of technology in their training. So you had a lot of carry guys with good fastballs that were thrown down in the zone in 2019. So they weren't pitching to their strengths or whatever. You had a sinker guy that thought he could get up in the zone, and it just wasn't playing for him.
Mhm.
So I think that was the hardest part, was getting to this year and a half passes. Guys are just training the whole time. And now you have guys that are actually pitching to their strengths for once. And that was a big adjustment in the game. Like it seemed like baseball jumped like 3-4 years
Wow.
in that time. It was just different, you don't have guys that are, of course, everyone in the minors has something going for them, but now they're actually using it to their advantage.
Right. So it kicks it up a little bit.
Yeah.
How long does it take to get into a rhythm with a pitching staff? Because obviously each guy is going to have their strengths, like you say. Everybody's going to be, maybe they need a little bit more amped up. Maybe they're like, dude, don't go to the mound so many times.
Right.
Leave me
Right.
alone. How long does it take on average to, okay, we're in a roll. I got you, guy. Pitch A, pitch B. Like, how long does that take, that relationship?
Honestly, it probably takes like 2, maybe 3 times to catch them.
Okay.
I mean, starters are a lot easier because you're getting a few innings out of them each time, whereas I might see a reliever once a week. And sure, you can catch them in the bullpen, but without a hitter in there, without seeing how their stuff's actually playing on the field, it's a little different. So I would say probably like 2 or 3 times catching probably a reliever would be best. Yeah. But that's one of the hardest things is when I got moved up, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Because that was my first move up of my career. So that was definitely an adjustment, is trying to learn a new staff and all that. Yeah.
Interesting. Are there any catchers in the big leagues or any, I guess, former pros, whatever it may be, that you kind of lean on for advice and guidance? I didn't know if you are able to chat with Mike Zunino or Francisco Mejia, or maybe there's a guy up in AAA or other guys that you've kind of run into that, have done the pro catching thing for a long time. I didn't know if you have any mentors in that angle of things.
Honestly, not. I haven't really gotten to meet many catchers, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Obviously, I bounce stuff off of like Blake Hunt and stuff like that, who we have a history together. But I haven't really been to, obviously, big league camp yet, so I haven't really been around any big league catchers and stuff like that. But I mean, a lot of my information has come from, I guess, like the Padres kind of introduced me to like the new style of catching and all that. But a lot of it is just watching video, listening to podcasts, stuff like that. That actually has helped me a lot with kind of developing my own style of catching.
And I would imagine that bouncing ideas and thoughts off Blake Hunt probably goes a long way, because that we interviewed him several months ago, and I see future manager, future GM, future
he's
whatever
legit.
he wants to be on his resume.
He's definitely legit back there. He's got it going on for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now following up a little bit, going from, playing catcher, then maybe getting a day in the outfield, maybe in the infield, how difficult is it? And I don't necessarily know your schedule of games and so forth, but you play 3-4 games in a row at catcher, then you move to the outfield. Is it a challenge to be like, man, I haven't played outfield in a couple of days, a couple of weeks. It's taken me a little bit to get adjusted, or is it just something where, I mean, you've been playing these positions your entire life that it's not a big deal? I've always wondered about those utility players, or those players that move around so much, if not getting enough reps at one position makes it difficult to get game action there.
Right. And I think it definitely makes a difference not getting those reps. Obviously, I'm probably catching hundreds of pitches a day, whether it's in the bullpen, off machines and stuff like that. But you don't get many real reads. Even in BP, it's really not the same thing in the outfield. So I would say like I'm lagging behind on reps out there, even though I played that position in college as well. Played more center in college than right, which center field, you get more true reads. You can kind of just run the ball down, whereas I think in the corners, you kind of have to get better reads and maybe wait a little bit longer to see that's true flight and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's definitely a little bit harder of a thing to balance. But I've been out there enough where I'm not worried about going out there and messing something up. Yeah.
How does that happen? How does that click of like, I'm not going to be afraid of something not going exceptionally right? How does that switch turn on?
Well, I guarantee you when I go back to spring training this year, my first game in right field, I'm like, oh gosh, don't hit it to me. No, but it's usually that. Like you kind of get into the routine of spring training and kind of get out there and get your feet back under you for that. Yeah.
Don't say that, Logan, because what they say is the ball always finds you.
It does.
Right.
That's what happened my first game of spring training when I was out there. Like first ball that I see out there going towards the line, I run into the fence and catch it. But I was like, oh, okay, that's one way to get it back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to get that confidence back up is making a nice catch on the fence.
Make a couple of nice catches there, and it goes a long way.
Yeah.
Logan, backing up a little bit, you went to George Mason. Why did you choose that school over maybe some? I'm not sure how many offers you got, but I mean, you were pretty highly ranked, like the number 1 catcher in the state of Virginia, I guess. Just why George Mason over maybe some other larger, bigger name schools?
Right. I mean, honestly, coming out of high school, I wouldn't say an amazing player. I mean, I had Joe Rizzo, if you know that name, with the Mariners. He was like the big fish in my area. Went in the second round out of high school, so I was no Joe Rizzo by any means. And honestly, with the recruiting process, a lot of schools were just saying I was too small at the time. I didn't fit into those big conferences and stuff like that. But one of the biggest things was my brother was actually playing at George Mason as well. He was 3 years older than me. And so I kind of got introduced with them pretty early and obviously was talking to them early in my high school career, like freshman year. I think they said, whenever you want to take an offer, we can give you one, just because they knew the player that my brother was. And he was honestly like the most influential part of my decision to go to George Mason, but also like catching, because he was also a catcher. So.
Okay. Yeah. The puzzle gets a little bit more complete now.
Right.
Yeah, that works out. So in kind of following off of that, what was a larger change or adjustment for you? Was it the lifestyle and the gameplay of going from high school to college, or from college to the minors?
Honestly, it wasn't a big jump from high school to college, but honestly, even the jump from college to the minor leagues, because it was short season, so you have a lot of college guys that are there, or a few guys that have been in rookie ball for a few years. Now they have that somewhat of experience. But honestly, the biggest thing was just seeing the tools that everyone had. You see guys hitting balls like 450, 460 in BP, just flicking their wrists, or loud fastballs and stuff like that, or guys running like the wind down to first base, and you're like, wow, how am I ever gonna like throw a guy out like that? But I think the biggest thing was when I got there was just not worrying about what other guys are doing, what other tools that everyone else has, because everyone has them, and just focusing on what I'm doing and taking care of business.
And going back to when you were drafted 73rd overall pick, compensation round, is that what you expected? Was that what the pre-draft prognosticators had said, that Logan Driscoll probably going to be top 75, top 100 pick, or were you surprised by how high or how low you were taken? I mean, that's pretty impressive to be a top 75 draft pick, especially coming from a mid-major school. Not to speak against George Mason, but it's not ACC, SEC, so forth.
Right, exactly. And that was probably one of the things that was kind of holding me back too, was, I'm at a mid-major. Can he hang with the better pitching and all that? And honestly, what also hurt me was I went to the Cape and struggled for the first half and then picked it up on the back half. But all those things were kind of working against me for my stock. And obviously they're saying, this kid isn't going to go back to George Mason, so we don't have to give him the money that he might want or whatever, or take him where he might normally go. So a lot of those things were kind of going, I guess, against me, you could say. But I had a good relationship with the Padres. They sent their special assistant to come out and talk to me. So like I had a good relationship with them, but honestly, I had no expectation of the draft. Originally, it was, hey, I just hope I get drafted my junior year, to kind of blowing up on me and hoping I'm top 10, top 5. And then now it's like, hopefully I'm top 5 draft. And then I get the call, I think around midnight that first night. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
tell us
so
about that. How was that? I mean, were you watching on TV? What was that atmosphere like? Who were you with?
I was at I grew up right by George Mason. So I was still in my college apartment, but I went home and was watching the draft with my brother and a few friends and my girlfriend. Watching the first round, second round starts. And we're like, all right, we're going to go home, go back to bed. So I'm actually getting ready to go to bed. And one of my roommates comes in with a box of donuts at midnight. I'm like, what are you doing? But I'll have one. So I'm eating the donut, and I see my agent call. I'm like, what the heck? And I like throw the donut at the kid. And my agent's calling me saying, like, hey, the Padres want to take you. Like, stay on the phone. Like, we'll figure this out. And so then 5 minutes later, he calls me back, and he's like, hey, are you watching the TV? My area scout calls me, and, yeah, things went down. And honestly, it's probably like one of the only draft stories that seems like it goes someone's way, which was pretty awesome. Yeah.
I love hearing these stories, Kevin. Yeah. The draft stories, getting the calls to the bigs, those are the best.
Did you sleep that night?
No, it was way different experience. Like nothing I've ever felt before. Totally numb probably for a week. I was just completely like
cloud nine,
out of my body. Yeah.
Did you have that donut?
Oh yeah, I had that donut. I probably had like 4 donuts. Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, you gotta bulk up, get that energy for the long minor league season. How soon after you're drafted I don't know, do you fly out to San Diego? Do you fly out to their
Arizona
player complex, whatever it may be? Like how soon from I get the call that I'm drafted 73rd overall to, all right, I need to get on a plane and meet these folks.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we actually flew out to San Diego, and I met up with C.J. Abrams, Joshua Mears, and Matt Brash, and we all threw out the first pitch that night against the Nats, who I thought was going to be the team that was going to draft me. So that was a good one.
Yes.
So ended up doing that, and then we got sent down to the complex for like 3 days, and then I got sent up to short season right on time. Yeah. So it was a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
But throwing the first pitch was pretty cool.
I bet it was.
Was it a strike? Hopefully.
It was a strike, yeah. And Hunter Renfroe caught it, so he ended up coming over too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my! Wow, dude, that must be insane. Like, the whole stadium full, people, everybody's cheering.
Right.
Like, I mean, goosebumps is not even the word, right?
Right. And the worst part is Hunter's yelling at me like, "Don't mess up!" I'm like, "Oh, come on, dude."
Do not bounce this ball.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And were there any other players that did you get to meet, the starting lineup or anybody on the Padres or the Nats? I guess probably not the Nats, but I didn't know if they showed you around too. I mean, the Padres have some stars on their roster, so I didn't know kind of if you got.
Honestly, we didn't get to walk around that much there, but I wish we did. That would have been pretty awesome. Yeah.
It's a pretty cool stadium. Going back to you talked about, in the Cape, you kind of struggled in the beginning, and then you kind of took it all for a ride. 2021, we talked about your numbers off the charts. Are you a superstitious guy when things are going well or when things are going wrong? And if so, what are those things?
Honestly, I think a lot of our days are based on routine. So like we all have our routines of when we get to the park and all that. But honestly, it's pretty easy when things start going bad to kind of overdo our process and all that, to get in the cage earlier and start trying to figure things out, which I'm starting to realize now is, hey, it's probably just working in the wrong direction now. Maybe I just need to rest and give my body a break and give it that reset to kind of let's say I'm hitting, let my swing take over naturally instead of it, oh, my shoulder's tired, so I start pulling off the ball and all that. So I think, it's easy to start looking at, oh, I'm not doing well right now, let me work harder. But that's never really the solution anymore, because I mean we're all busting our butts to perform. I would say superstitions, not really many. I think in college I would eat the same meal before games and stuff. I would have
What was it?
I would always have like smoked salmon out of the bag, which is weird, right? Like
No,
I would just
not a bad
yeah,
pick. Not a bad
yeah.
pick.
I think it's weird, but that's
Yeah.
just me.
Smoked salmon, then like a bread, pretzel ball bread was
Ooh.
one of my go-to. Yeah,
Did you
weird.
toast the bread, toast it, and then
Yeah,
just
yeah,
yeah, this is
it's good.
delicious.
I mean, clearly it works. So my kid's gonna be eating smoked salmon out of,
Yeah, I got sick of the salmon though, so now I
Okay.
can't eat salmon anymore. But I guess it was worth it.
It was worth it, man. That's great. Now, okay, you as long and Curtis Mead mentioned keeping that journal and,
Yeah.
and writing things down. How often do you go back and writing it on it? I know Curtis mentioned that if he goes 4-4-4, I don't need to know what went right.
Right.
I crushed it. Is that your same philosophy, or do you have a different aspect on when to write and then when to read it back?
Right. So Curtis does a different type of journal. I'm not going to expose his process, but
Of course.
mine's more based on swings and all that. I think his looks more at like it looks at that side, but also lifestyle. Like he's pretty religious
Yes.
about his stuff, which is great and it works for him. But for me, like I'm more just focused on because I have my routine. I take care of business, and then I just want to focus on the video. So
Ah,
a lot of mine is just based on video. Even on those good swings, that 4-for-4 night, I'm still going back and looking. Oh, maybe I saw something that the guy tipped his pitch, or my thought process was right. So I'm writing all those things down, so that way when I circle back and face that guy again, I still have a little bit of an edge.
okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot of
Yeah.
you got to think back and keep that
Mhm.
in the memory bank.
Following up on that, how much, if at all, do you tinker or adjust with your swing and your stance and what you're trying to do at the plate? Because we know that, go through a slump, you want to change something up. Things are going well, you want to keep doing that. Just how often is it okay, maybe I don't use as much of a leg kick, or maybe I lower my hands? Like, how much are you thinking about and actually acting upon those types of things that might go through your mind?
Right. And I think we're all trying to stay in that flow that we call it, like you just wake up and you hit.
Mhm.
But in reality, you might get that. I know I only got that for maybe a week and a half. Whereas I felt that feeling where it's been like a month where I'm just completely hitting. But last year, for whatever reason, it felt like it was a grind every day to go out and figure out my swing. And maybe that was just the year and a half off, or and not seeing pitching for a while. But I think I finally found that flow right before I got pulled up, and then I get pulled up, home run my first pitch in high A, and then I hit a skid. And that's when I think I was like 0 for 30 or something like that. And it was probably like the worst skid of my minor league career. And that's when we started tinkering and messing with different ideas. But I've always wondered in my career, it's like, yes, I'm this type of hitter. I'm doing these things well, but is there something else I could be doing to have power like Curtis Mead? And that's something me and him always go back and forth. Like he has never lifted weights up until this year. Like this is his first offseason where he's not playing ball in Australia.
Mhm.
Um, so he's skinnier, not as strong as me, but the kid hits the ball way harder than me. And so like that's something we always go back and forth. Me and him talk hitting all the time. So it was like that in that time where I was struggling, I was like, okay, we got a month left in the year. Why don't we start tinkering with things and trying new things? And I was with Brady North, who is now our new big league hitting coach, one of
Mhm.
them. And so we just went back and forth trying to tinker with stuff. And I think it helped me find myself as a hitter and realize, hey, what I was doing in Charleston or low A and what I was doing in 2019 has been working. Sure, I might go into spells where things are a little bit off, but I think it helped me find my identity as a hitter. And I think going through those tinkering changes and all that is like a process that everyone should go through because it kind of helps you find yourself on the other side.
You said the type of hitter that I am, and then you said the identity of the hitter that I am. Who is Logan Driscoll at the box?
Yeah, so when I say that, I mean like how do I move as a hitter? There's a lot of people that are like, oh, like get to 50-50. Like I want my weight neutral, use the ground force. There's a ton of stuff, or like backside hitter. And I'm one of those people that usually like kind of stays on their backside. And I think when we were going through all these changes, it was to get me off my backside. And sure, I was able to compete. And for some reason during that little spell, it was like I was hitting the ball backside super well. But it wasn't like my normal swing. So like, and then I realized like, hey, like maybe I just don't need to be back as much rather than doing this extreme, trying to get to 50-50 and all that. Yeah. I think, I mean, there's so many different hitters out there. And so you just got to find what's working for you.
Well, I mean, when you have an 850 OPS and a 290 hitter at that, I mean, maybe not a lot of tinkering needs to be done, but I mean, what is the one thing at the box, you know, obviously looking at those numbers and now it's January, we're moving into February. Hopefully baseball is all going to be okay. Obviously for minor leagues is going to happen, but what are you looking forward as a goal in 2022? Is it basically just health? Is it learning more about being a catcher and getting more repertoire with the rapport with those pitchers, or do you have a goal with numbers on that stat sheet that you're looking at?
Right. I think there's a lot of things. I mean, you kind of tick some marks there for me. But honestly, like on the hitting side, Brett Wisely and I always talk like that kid's a special hitter. He can do a little tennis serve slap down the left field line for a double. If you've seen videos of him, he'll do, which I started off the season doing it too. Split grip. He'll go split grip on the bat and hit a home run with 2 strikes. He's a special hitter.
Wow.
And he kind of blew up this year. I don't think he's getting the respect that he deserved and the notoriety, but he had a really impressive year. But me and him always talk about, hey, like we want to be guys that hit 300.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the crazy power, even though I think he might have had 20 homers this year or something crazy like that. So me and him aren't in the same boat. But I know that like that's an old-fashioned, out-of-date stat, but hitting 300 shows your hitability. And if I can do that with gap-to-gap power, that's who I want to be as a hitter. I don't want to be a guy that just sells out for power. And I think being a catcher, I can be that and not worry about the power side of things. I think some catchers aren't the best hitters, so then they have to sell out for power and run into some balls. But if I could just have a little bit of hitability and I'm somewhere in the middle of the two, that's where I want to be. And then as for, like, you hit the nail on the head with health. I mean, I'm constantly doing my routine, trying to stay healthy and all that. And I'm coming in at a lighter weight this year, tried to get as lean as possible. So right now I'm at like 215 body weight, where usually even in college I was 220, 225. So just trying to come in a little bit leaner, see if that helps. But also just comes down to not overdoing like the workouts and all that, or not overhitting when I'm not performing the way I want to, and just giving my body the break. I think that's going to be the next step of it all to stay healthy.
Man, a 300 hitting catcher, that's a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
Buster Posey, you got Joe Mauer.
It's a pretty short list.
It's a pretty short list, and so it's lovely to hear you have that goal, because that's not something that you see. And I love that you mentioned it's an old stat. I for the life of me, I cannot understand why traditional stats and new age stats, why can't they just live together harmoniously and just complement each other, that rather than just pick a side? What's your take on that? I love that you brought that up. Are you looking more at traditional stats? Are you looking at new age stuff? Are you looking at everything? What's what you focus on?
I mean, I know, like, what's the big one right now? Like OPS, which does matter. It matters a ton. But I think there just goes with being able to work your way on with your bat is different than just walking and stuff like that, getting on base percentage up. And like everyone wants that hit ability, because if you have that hit ability, you're not striking out as much. You're moving guys around yourself. So that's what I think average represents. I don't really care about the 300 mark. I was close last year, but I don't think if I go out there and hit 270 next year, I'm not going to be super mad about it. It's more just like a mark that I've always strived for in my career, and just because it's not really the hot topic right now, it doesn't mean I don't want to. I want to do that for myself, you know. And I think stats are stats, and I'll let like the Rays figure out what they want for me to do that year, and I'll just go out there and do it.
Look, I'm hoping to hit 300 in my beer league softball team. That'd be nice. But Logan, in all seriousness here, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, as far as, man, catching is a grind physically, but also mentally. Do you feel that at all? And maybe speaking more to it physically, when it's the 7th, 8th, 9th inning and you're coming up to the plate, it's like, man, my quads, my legs, my calves, they're feeling it a little bit, or there's so much going on during the game, so much adrenaline that it's not maybe until the next day or that you have a day off and it's like, man, I really needed that rest or that break. Like, how much in the game are you thinking, man, I'm not feeling 100%. I mean, I guess it's very hard to always feel at your best, but it's like, man, catcher can be brutal at times.
Right. I mean, I definitely think that 7, 8, 9 day, like after you've caught maybe like 2 or 3 games, and then you're in that last game, going up for your 7th, 8th, 9th inning at bat, and I think that can be sometimes a little tiring. I don't think it's never really your body that same day. But it's usually your mind. Your mind's a little tired, and that's not all the time. I mean, I'm just giving you that rare instance where you notice it. Usually you're in that intense zone that you don't really notice it, but when you do, it's usually your mind that's going rather than your body, at least for me,
Interesting. Okay. Ulises, we will get to one of the favorite segments that we have.
Before we do, though.
Yeah.
What's a day in the life for Logan during the season? What time are you waking up? What time's the game? What do you do? Are you a Starbucks guy? Are you a napper? What's going on a day that you have a ball game?
So usually, I guess we kind of get back. Let's start like after a game. We finish a game, we get our meal, and then we go back. We're probably playing cards for a little bit, and then usually we get done probably around like midnight, and that's when, because I mean, the game ends at 10. Usually we're out of there by like 10:30. Usually we play some cards, we eat, and then I usually throw in like my Mark Pro, all my like body care stuff for another hour or so. So usually I fall asleep around like 1:30 or 2, which isn't ideal, but then you pick it up on the back end. Usually wake up, make some breakfast, go pick up a coffee. Starbucks is good, but I always try to find like the local place. And then I forget what it was called. I think it was like Julian's or something out in Bowling Green. Yeah,
okay.
That was our spot. So me and Alika Williams would always go out there and grab a coffee, or I'd pick it up for Curtis because Curtis at the time didn't have a car, so I'd go out and pick it up for Curtis. Of course, the star child Curtis, got to get him his coffee.
Yeah, of course.
If we wanted to win today, I got to get Curtis his coffee.
He's hitting the bombs. Here you go.
yeah. And then usually get to the field. I usually try to get there super early. I'm a big hot tub guy that goes into, I guess you can call that a little ritual superstition. I'm a big hot tub, just chill out guy, and then usually I'll do some scouting reports then and then get my body ready. Yeah. And then run it back the next day.
Okay. And obviously you're lifting after the hot tub or no?
It depends on the day. Sometimes I usually try to lift on my outfield days or my day off.
Yeah. So no lifting when you're catching, when you have catching
Try
duties?
not to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then my legs are super
sore.
heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, Ulises really wants to know about your lifting schedule. I think he's trying to get some hints or tips here.
I'm trying to get the Johnny Bravo look.
Yeah. I'm trying to get the Logan Driscoll look. Well, what you got to do, Ulises, you got to wake up at 5:15 a.m. and work out with me.
Okay.
Wait till you do that.
There you go.
Sounds good.
All right, Logan, let's get to it.
Yes.
That was a great answer, too, on Day in the Life.
Yes.
Quick hitters, rapid fire questions, just first thought that comes to your mind, and feel free to expound upon it as you see fit. First one, funniest teammate within the minor leagues, within the Rays minor league system.
All right. That's tough because, I mean, the clubhouses are usually pretty electric. We've got some good personalities. But I would say, like, the combination of Luis Trevino, who's a catcher, he's from Mexico, played at Abilene Christian. So his English is really good, obviously. He's very fluent. The combination of him and Colby White together and the way they go back and forth is hilarious. It's probably the highlight of my minor league career last year in the locker room, just watching those two go back and forth. They're hilarious.
Isn't like
Yeah.
Colby White like a Southern or from
Yeah,
Mississippi?
he's from
So
Mississippi. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I
like
love
those two,
this.
you just want to know what's going on in their heads 24/7.
That's awesome. Number 2, most athletic teammate besides yourself. Obviously, you're number 1. Most athletic teammate.
I would say Alika. Alika Williams is
Mm.
obviously great hands,
Yeah.
shortstop. But even like when we were down at Instructs, just watching him play beach volleyball, which he does have an advantage being from San Diego. But just watching that kid move, he's really athletic.
Yeah. He's known for his defense. I mean, that's
Yes.
one of the primary reasons
Smooth
that he
hands.
was drafted. I
Right.
think I listened to an interview with him not too long ago that I think halfway through his freshman year at Arizona State that he was moved to shortstop. So it's like, man, if you're able to move to
Jeez.
shortstop as a freshman at Arizona State of all places, yeah, you
get
can
skills.
bring it with the glove. Yeah.
Right.
Logan, besides baseball, what is your favorite hobby or hobbies?
I'm big into bass fishing. I love fishing.
Okay.
So usually I go, especially during spring training, that's big. Usually grab like Andrew Gross, who is our submarine guy down in Charleston. He's always a good time to go fishing with. He actually moved to Florida this year, so hopefully he's found us some new spots. So that'll be good. And then also I love hiking. Hiking's great. Usually a good little getaway from everything. Obviously can't do that during the season, but that's like the one thing I look forward to most in the off season.
That's great. Would you be able to do that? Some of that in Rhode Island right now?
Yeah, so there's actually some. I mean, not right now. It's freezing.
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah,
freezing. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm in Tampa weather. I'm like, it's 60
Right,
degrees. You can do that.
Yeah, but I actually mixed it in with my rehab when it was still a little bit warmer, just because I was supposed to be walking like 3 or 4 miles a day, so I just do it in the hiking version. Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Favorite baseball movie?
Being a Yankee fan, I have to say, or was a Yankee fan.
There we go.
They don't sign your
Easy.
paychecks.
Yeah,
They don't sign your
yeah,
paychecks
exactly,
anymore.
exactly.
We got it.
61. Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle.
Yes.
Movie, right?
That movie does not get enough love.
No, it doesn't.
It does not. It's terrific. Have you watched it?
Never
Kevin?
saw it.
Oh,
my
man,
God.
underrated.
You got to watch it after this.
Really?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's Major League is my go-to.
Major League is good.
It's tough
Yes.
to top. Now, I'm sure it's a different style.
Oh, it's
movie.
terrific. You're gonna love it.
I like
Might
Summer
have to check
Catch
it
too. Summer Catch was a good one. That one doesn't get enough love either. Some people
Yeah, it
just
doesn't.
completely
Really
say
doesn't.
that movie.
Good
stinks,
picks.
There we go.
Underrated.
Maybe Logan and Ulysses should do a baseball movie podcast.
Podcast.
I'm
Might be
down.
the next one.
I'm down.
Very good. Actually, following up on that, before we move on to my official question, side note on the favorite baseball movie, what is your favorite TV show, or what is your like go-to show that you have right now?
Yeah.
I mean, Yellowstone is completely electric. If you guys haven't seen Yellowstone,
I have
you
not.
guys
Have
need
you?
to hop on that.
I've been trying to watch it, but like you got to get Paramount Plus and free trial, and I'm trying to weasel my way in. I think I've gotten in now officially, but I've heard very good things. Kevin Costner in it and everything.
Yeah,
So
Kevin
it's that
Costner,
good.
It's like Game of Thrones, but the Western version. Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
my family's from South Dakota too, so like a lot of it kind
Oh.
of comes back to that. But like even like everyone loves it. I think you need to watch that. Also watching Survivor, which never gets old. You guys Survivor people?
I mean, I've seen some. I'm not a diehard. I've seen
we
some.
binge Survivor. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man,
Also,
I'm into
Paramount
Yellowstone though.
Yeah, I'll get you that.
I'm a Game of Thrones guy.
Yeah.
Well, except for the last.
Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, the last season was a little bit of a disappointment, but we don't talk about the last season.
That's true.
Yeah.
We don't.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's great.
Never
We'll
happened.
check out Yellowstone. Favorite meal besides the salmon? Like, what is your favorite meal today? Maybe that still is.
I can't even talk about
what do
the
you go
salmon
to
anymore. We're over the salmon. Honestly, anything like home cooked. It doesn't even have to be my mom's cooking, but my mom makes really good fried chicken. Also a big steak guy. Steak never gets old.
No.
So usually something like that. Yeah.
Man,
Home
fried
cooking, because I mean, when you're on the road, you pretty much get the same thing. Like the Rays meals are pretty good. I was used to like PB&Js my first year, but then coming here, we're usually getting like some type of meat and a grain and green beans or broccoli or something like that. So the meals are good, but nothing beats home cooking. It's usually a little less healthy too.
Yeah. Oh man, now I want some fried chicken.
Yeah.
Toughest pitcher faced in the minors so far?
Felix Hernandez. Yeah.
Oh my!
Wow.
You faced
King
Felix?
Felix, yeah. In 2019, I faced him when he was rehabbing, and he went 7 shutty on us. But I remember when I got up there, I was like, oh, he's throwing like 88, 89. But it was like 88 and 89. Like his two seam ran like the nastiest changeup you've ever seen. It was just went off the table. And then he dropped in a curveball on me that literally fell off the table and it buckled the umpire. I should have been rung up. But then I popped it up the first at bat and then hit a ground ball in the hole to short. I think it's the fastest I've ever run because I was like, oh, I need this hit off of Felix.
Yeah.
And it was bang, bang. I was like, oh, dang it. I didn't get it. But that'd be nice to
Dang.
say I got a hit off of Felix. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. Hey, wow, Felix Hernandez. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's one for the memory bank
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh man.
Speaking of that, little sidetrack here. Were you ever able to get like a BP session with Rich Hill? Like, were you able to, take some swings off him, or
Right.
exclusively catching?
Well, I told him, I was like, I don't think I want to take any at-bats off you this offseason because I don't want to go into spring training feeling bad about myself. Just because
Okay,
he's
good.
moving his arm action all the way down. So pretty much just been catching him right now, but I'm obviously not at the point yet to be facing these pitchers yet. But yeah.
Okay.
It would be nice to face him. Might make hitting a little bit easier when I get back into it, but
That's right.
got to
one
save
thing
the self-esteem right now.
Yeah. Take care of that one. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
One thing I'm waiting for is who lasts longer playing professional sports, Rich Hill or Tom Brady? Who's going to be the first to go? I know they're buds in some shape or form, so I'd like to know, did Tom Brady hang him up and then Rich Hill plays that extra year? We'll wait and see.
That's right.
I know. That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. And then finally, and you, if you want to list a couple players, that's certainly fine. But the most impressive Rays pitcher that you've worked with, that you've caught their stuff and said, wow, this guy's definitely going to be something. He's on track to be a big leaguer. Like, I don't know how anybody hits off this guy.
Yeah. I would say there's two that really come to mind. Taj Bradley, I think he's like 20 years old. And he's just completely electric. Throws up to I think he got up to 99 last year, but he's cruising 96, 97. But it's just so free and easy. It's the most effortless velo you'll ever see. And then he's still got a lot to, he's just still adding pitches and all that, but he's going to be pretty special. Colby White is fun to watch. I mean, just watching him move, he moves so efficiently. It's pretty electric to watch. And then Ian Seymour is pretty cool. 94, 95. But if you were to tell him, hey, I want you to move the ball like this much or like this or this, and he'll do it. He's got that special ability where he'll just put the ball in his hand. He's like, oh yeah, I'll do that, and just does it. It's special. But so those are all. I mean, obviously the Rays are loaded, so I could have said anybody, and it would have worked. So,
well, those are names that we are on the lookout for the next couple of seasons. So that'll be very interesting. Logan, I cannot thank you enough for the time that you have given us. Thank you so much for being so generous, not only with your time but with your candid answers. Having fun. Did you have fun during this time?
Oh yeah, definitely. That was a great time. I appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah, definitely fun. It's definitely the step in the direction because we're getting the season going. So this was the step where it's all right, let's start looking towards the new year.
That's right.